My name is Lisa Skyehorse, and I've been a saddle maker since 1972. I started doing leatherwork before that. I was an art and philosophy major at UCLA, and that's where I started dabbling in leatherwork. And I was doing purses, belts, wallets, keychains, selling them at street fairs. Then in 1971, I apprenticed Lawrence DeWitt, who is a fabulous saddle maker up in Brownsville, Oregon, and he taught me how to build saddles. I came back to Arcata, California, which is in the Pacific Northwest. It's in northern part of California, up in the Redwoods in the northwest corner. Opened my first saddle shop in 1972, which was called the Arcata Saddle Company. And I've been doing saddle work ever since. In 1974, I became partners with my husband, who began as a trapper, and I taught him saddle making, and we've been saddle makers full-time ever since. Our forte is a very, very contemporary, artistic Western saddle that is traditionally built Western saddle, but a more modern, artistic flow to it. Not quite as classic, although we do traditional work as well. But our forte is to custom make a Western saddle that is not only beautiful, but it's built so that you'll have it for 100 years. It's built in the classic style of the saddles that were built 100 years ago, but it's just got my own version of artwork on it. My own style of artwork is a lot different than the classic cowboy style. It's more bold, more open. I like to paint my backgrounds black and have there be a lot of contrast. I like there to be a lot of negative space. I don't usually fully tool a saddle. I usually make the shapes really pleasing, and I leave the blank shapes so that they're beautiful as well, and they complement the tooled shapes, and it highlights the carving. I like to combine contemporary artistic themes. I like to combine traditional Native American looks. I combine Native American style silver work with the carving, and I usually make the silver work match whatever the pattern of the saddle is. If it's basket stamp, we have a special basket stamp silver that we use. If I'm carving kachinas, we use Native American storyteller kachina style silver on it. And I like my work to be open, flowing. It's not usually really tight. We do a lot of other things to our saddles that make them also wonderful to ride. We fully inlay the seats of the saddles to give the rider a really close contact. The leather we use is traditionally a little bit lighter, and we cut the skirts up quite a bit so that it's a really close contact ride. And the other forte, along with the design and the lines of the saddle, the skirts and the jockeys, we like to highlight the edges with braiding, which is something Lauren does, with either a kangaroo lace or a sterling silver lace. That's our own unique look. The other thing I like to do, along with the negative space that I do not tool, is I really enjoy combining textures. I enjoy doing a carved pattern with a stamped border, like on this right here. This is a little traditional, but I carve the pattern, and then I stamp the border, which gives it an extra texture. In some pieces, like a piece like this, I also do a texture with my swivel knife, and I combine textures. This is a crosshatch, this is lines, this is stamping, finish cutting. So I'm not afraid to combine things that normally you might not see together to make a really interesting, more complex pattern on the leather. I usually like to do a border with my double-bladed swivel knife to just frame the piece. And when I do it, I use my calipers. I make a nice line that's equidistant from the edge. And I calipered this one, but this line, I'm just going to wing it. I'm just going to do a nice flowing pattern, and I'm just going to eyeball it. And then I'm going to do what I like to do the best, which is swivel knife. And this one I use a porcelain blade because I like to have a really nice bold line. My work is not real fussy. It's mostly big and a little bolder. So I really like the line that this knife makes. And of course I'm pushing hard at the beginning and then tapering down to a really gentle line at the end. And I'm going to vary my cuts so that they all don't go the same way. So it looks, this is going to be a feather, and this is going to be like a feather, which means that it's not all consistent and perfect. I think the other important thing is it depends on the style of carving you're doing, but if you're doing a long flowing free style like this is, if you see I'm not just moving from my hand, I'm moving my whole arm from the shoulder, and it's giving me a really nice smooth line that's not choppy and it really flows. Then I'll sit back and look at my pattern, and it'll look like it needs another flower coming down here to just kind of balance, feather, to balance this space and pull me into the corner there. And I'm not afraid to crisscross and overlap my lines either. It's not important that they're perfect, because feathers aren't perfect. Then I would probably look at my pattern. I'd see it flowing right down into here, and I would just highlight that corner a little bit. I wouldn't make the finished cuts go the whole way up the side, because it's as important, what you leave out is as important to the pattern as what you put in. So if this was a real fender that I was carving, I would probably bevel the lines of the feather. I would probably put that little hair tool right down the spine of the feather, and I'd maybe put a little bit of stamping in it, or I'd put a little bit of stamping around one of the edges.